Today I am joined by Patricia Keul, better known as Pat, a nationally recognized leader in disability inclusion and employment. With over 30 years of experience, Pat has been at the forefront of developing and managing innovative, inclusive disability employment services. As the Operations Director for Disability in North Carolina, she works with leaders, businesses, and stakeholders across the state to build new programs and expand existing ones, always with the mission of creating true equality and opportunity for individuals with disability. Pat also leads InRoads to Employment Initiative, a 3-year project funded by North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities. Through this effort, she connects businesses, schools, communities, colleges, and agencies to foster collaboration and open more doors to employment for people with disabilities. Her passion, vision, and leadership have made her a champion for inclusion, bridging the gap between talent and opportunity. Let's chop it up. Pat, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Tony?
You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be with me today, so I'm very, very thankful.
There's nowhere in the world I'd rather be.
Amen to that. So tell us a little bit, who is Pat? Tell us about yourself.
Okay, so the vast majority of my experience is in the nonprofit sector, but if you ask me to sum up who I am in one word, I would say teacher.
A teacher.
Which was my first career.
Was it?
A teacher.
So where are you from, Pat?
Yep. I'm actually from the South, but I never felt like I was from the South because both of my parents are from Germany. They're naturalized citizens that came over after the war. And so we were that weird family that ate different foods than everybody else. We didn't have a gazillion cousins that we could hang out with because they were all in the old country. And my relatives sent us German clothes to wear, which was really the killer. It made you stand out.
Oh, no, not that.
That's that.
That is that. So you mentioned you were a teacher. What grades?
So I originally started out as a teacher, and I had a special ed degree, and I taught school at Charlotte Mecklenburg's classes in about 3 schools over the course of about 6 years. All of my kids were kids with significant disabilities, but kids on a track to be able to leave high school and go to work. That's where it all started.
That's where it all started. So let's talk a little bit about you in the nonprofit space. Let's talk a little bit about your amazing organization. How did your organization get started? And what was the need behind creating it?
Right. So disability in North Carolina is like the bottom or the back end of my career, all right? Because I've had this big career in teaching and nonprofits and whatever. And this is like, surprise, you're still working at your age. Right. But it's because I love it. Anyway, it is an affiliate of Disability In, which is a much larger organization that's now moving international, which started with the notion that they were going to support the efforts of the businesses relative to bringing people in with disabilities and helping them cultivate the right atmosphere and welcoming policies, et cetera, to make it much more seamless for businesses to hire at all levels, from entry all the way up to the C-suite. And Disability in North Carolina is a state affiliate. So as the name says, we serve North Carolina. We are a self-sustaining, self-sufficient private nonprofit, meaning we don't get any resources from the mothership other than the name and support in our activities. And to that end, we are working primarily with the businesses in North Carolina to help them to create the welcome mat that allows more employment of people with disabilities at all levels.
So disability in North Carolina, the subset, when did that actually start? Who determined?
You're right. I jumped right over that. It was 2012. And my colleague, Beth Butler, who is actually the executive director, and I got together and we worked for a number of years in volunteer capacity to get the organization up and off the ground and to get its nonprofit established. And then in about 2017, we began hitting on several grants. We were able to, both of us, come on and work in the organization. And so while it had its genesis in 2012, it really took off in about 2020, 2017, 2018,
Mm-hmm.
which is when we really began doing a lot of things. The InRoads grant that you mentioned from the DD Council is a past project
Mm-hmm.
from the Council on Developmental Disabilities, and we continue to do some of the work around that as far as supporting that connection between community colleges and employers, and most notably between apprenticeships. So
Nice.
apprenticeships are very big in our state and
Mm-hmm.
growing all the time. However, they have a difficult time cultivating recruitment from the disability space.
Right.
You wouldn't think so, but they do. And so it's really important that we look at that and say, all right, what can we do to help the students with disabilities tee up and apply for these great opportunities that could get them on a career track even before they leave high school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But again, people make a lot of assumptions about where the people with disabilities are and how to find them and things like that. And the reality is, it's often folks with disabilities and their family members feel a little displaced, a little out on the margins looking for things
I can understand that.
because they don't get sold to in the way that the typical student gets sold to.
Yeah, North Carolina State University has an amazing program where my
Mhm.
son actually, you didn't get a chance to meet him, but he's an RA. And on his floor, he has, I want to say, 12 to 18 students with disabilities that he looks over some of his RA
Cool.
duties. And I think a lot of people don't know where to turn or who to turn to. And I think your organization does a great job of just bringing that awareness. Let's look at the parent organization. And then we have you as a subset. Is there a lot of overwatch from them, or do you have that runway where you guys can kind of take this program wherever you see fit?
What, that's one of the blessings is that we do have a clear runway as long as we are aligned with the messaging and with the targeting of the business community as our primary customer.
Hmm.
They don't interfere with what we're doing, as well as we get to use their logo and their positioning in the market to enhance the cultivation of our business relationships. So what will often happen is the business might come in at the international level, say, and then they may begin asking questions about, well, what can we do more locally? We're over here in Virginia, we're over here in Massachusetts, we're here in North Carolina, and we have some needs here. What can we do that will localize our effort? And that's where we spend our time, is on the local North Carolina market. As well as there are businesses who are not affiliated with the bigger entity, who are just plain out looking for support. Recently, we achieved a consulting arrangement with Crescent Communities here in Charlotte, Mecklenburg. And that is a real estate company that's doing a lot of really interesting things with building out communities for people at all levels of income
Hmm.
and a real inclusive community vision. And they're building it on the west side of Charlotte, which is just wonderful. And they are building in a lot of amenities, like in their park-like atmosphere and things like that. No matter what level you come in on this community, they asked us if we would come in and train up their staff around how to identify and support the population of residents that are moving into their homes and their apartments about disability. So what you get is that these businesses are very interested in not misstepping. They're very interested in being good citizens, if you will. And so they're looking for ways that they can advance the mission.
That's very interesting. I'm fascinated by your conversation, particularly how you service businesses and in the way that you utilize that. What makes your nonprofit work? When people see disability in and then North Carolina, they
Mhm.
probably think it's
Yep.
a nonprofit through North Carolina. So what makes your
Mm.
nonprofit different from what a government or
It's a great
for-profit?
question. That's a really, really great question. Okay, so government isn't working at the level that we're working, which is business to business. We pride ourselves in, one company comes and they talk to another company
Mhm.
and they generate ideas together and they lift the market together, as opposed to, one at a time. In my middle space between teaching and and getting to disability in North Carolina. I worked in the job coaching area where I actually was at UNC Charlotte with Dr. David Test, and we started some of the very first job coaching programs in the entire state back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran a nonprofit for over 20 years that did job coaching. And we would approach the business. So our effort was a kind of push, right? Would you please consider interviewing this young man or this young lady, for your available position? So we're kind of pushing. We like to say at Disability in North Carolina that we're about pull.
Right.
The business pulls in the candidate
I love that.
and says, we are now ready for this experience. Our policies are in place. We know what we're doing. We would like to accommodate you. And so we'd like to pull in the talent. And that's a different framework. You need both in a marketplace, right? But we have predominantly been pushing.
Yeah.
And I would submit to you that it sort of jumps over what the business is A, capable of doing, and B, really wants to do, which is to create a climate where they're getting the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
There are no compromises being made here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the talent has to align with whatever the job description is.
That's right.
And it has to align with whatever the goals that this company has, for their alignment with their mission and with their place in the community. But a very different story when the employer says, I am ready to hire people who are neurodivergent. I am ready to accommodate people with hearing impairment or people with vision impairment. And yes, there's all this legal stuff that they have to honor that already predates and says, if someone comes to you, if a candidate comes to you, you need to accommodate them. All that's true. But that's a different thing than the business saying, you know what? I'm going to get ahead of this. I recognize the talent.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize the capability. And oh, by the way, it's the D word. I want a diverse workforce. I want a diverse workforce. I want a workforce that mirrors my community. And I want a workforce that brings talent that may have a very different way of looking at things, but could be quite an asset
Yes.
as we look at our customer base, our products and services, because 1 in 5 people have a connection to disability, either a family member or they themselves have a disability. And in some statistics, it's as high as 1 in 4. This is a human thing.
Yeah, I think there's a disconnection between businesses and consumer nowadays. None of it works without the consumer. And I think
Well,
most
duh.
businesses completely forget that because you take the consumer for granted. You take what form the consumer comes in for granted because it's all profit driven, right? But when you
Yeah.
realize that the consumer is your business, no matter what you're offering, then I like what you're speaking about, how these businesses recognize that we need all types of people.
Well, we do, and it's more than just a need. It's more than just a need. I'd like to move us away from this idea that we're doing something out of need or out
Okay.
of mandate.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What I'd like us to move to is the notion that, oh my gosh, what a great talent
What a great
that
team.
I've overlooked.
I love that.
What a great opportunity that I have missed. And I need to look into that because it's more than just if I hire the individual who has a visible disability, my customers will feel good about me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, like you're getting
And there's
kudos for
literature, it. There's research out there that says that does happen.
It does.
Okay, customers like it. Okay, but more importantly, hiring John, to do this great job in programming and discovering that he happens to have neurodiversity, and that's one of the talents he brings to the table because he's a bang up, code writer because he can see all those patterns. That is an amazing thing. And that is really hiring the best of the best, sir. That's
Yes.
not hiring beneath. And it's
That's
not
right.
it's not recruiting from sort of the backwater,
That's right.
And that's the thing as a teacher for me. One of the best things about the way in which I've been able to move in the world is to be able to talk to people and find out what their talents were.
Mm-hmm.
And then be able, and you did this when we were together at the ADA event, to be able to say, you have a blessing.
That's right.
You may not recognize it as such, but you have something somebody else doesn't have, and you can bring that to the table.
Yes.
You don't need to apologize.
That's right.
You can be here as a unique contributor.
Hmm.
The other side of it is that being a German, we just hate waste.
I didn't know that.
We just hate it. We just hate it. And so it's an issue of, you know, why would anybody waste the talents of so many gifted young people who just think differently?
That's
And
right.
oh, by the way, thinking differently is something we need right now.
Well, look, I want to spin off of this because a question just came to
Yeah,
my mind.
go
So,
for
with the consulting and the educating and all the things that you're doing, why choose nonprofit? Why not for profit?
it. It's the servant's heart. It's the thing that resonates with me.
Love it.
When you grew up in the 60s, as I did,
Hmm.
there's still a little hippie in there. Granted, she's now talking to corporate America,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I like to think I'm kind of beating it at their game,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Right.
You didn't realize we were going to sing Kumbaya.
That's right. That's right. Now you're
Yeah.
at the party.
And I do want to say this, Tony. It's important to say I have nothing against for profit
Hmm.
at all.
Hmm.
It's extremely important to make a profit. And even nonprofits had better be making a profit or they won't be
They
around for
won't be
long.
around. That's right.
No, no. But profit as the motive as opposed to service is probably more where I'm coming from, is that, it's what you said. We've forgotten that we serve the customer.
That's right.
And the feel good comes from serving the customer.
I love that. I love that. We talked a little bit about the values and principles. Do you have in your mission statement, what are your values and your principles? Is it to serve the community through your efforts with
Yeah,
businesses?
yeah, yeah. And also to connect business to business so that businesses are supporting each other on this journey. My boss, Beth Fatal, likes to talk about the fact that the whole disability thing is a journey. Nobody gets this right. Nobody finishes, ahead of the other guy. We're constantly discovering how we can be on this journey together and uncover a person's talents and help them bring it to the marketplace, or help a business to structure things so that now when they're publishing an ad, it invites people with disabilities to be recruited and to apply for a position or whatever. Again, it's more than just the issue of the law and mandates. It's much more an issue of what I tell young people with disabilities is go on the websites, look for where they're doing things to support diversity in all its ways, and then
Mhm.
also look deeper and see, is there anything they're doing besides volunteering for, sports activities and stuff like that? Is there anything they're doing that is carving out the notion that they got this message and that you would be welcome and at home working here?
Love that.
And so on the other side of it, you're saying to the company, you can make your welcome mat more visible. You can make what you're doing more accessible to the kind of talent you're trying to bring in.
So your funding, I want to say you guys have memberships, correct?
We have memberships. We have consulting that we do. We will also design programs for a company.
Hmm.
It's all self-generating. There's nothing that, that automatically funds us. So
Hmm.
we write grants. We participate with companies that want to develop things, and with any kind of nonprofit effort where somebody is wanting our knowledge to assist and support them as they reach this population.
Hmm.
The thing that's difficult for people, I think, sometimes is we are not a staffing agency.
Right. Understand.
Although, if you were to call me and say, where will I find these young people or these displaced workers or whatever, I could help you with that, but not in a staffing relationship. It would be more of a, what are you doing now? And can we back up and create the infrastructure for this problem to be solved going forward?
How do you find these businesses? I mean, do you have
Yeah.
project managers that go out and find potential businesses, or does Pat do that all on her own with her connections? How do you
Well,
sustain this?
yeah, we are a mighty team of two full-time people, Beth Fatal and myself.
Hmm.
We have a very, very active and wonderful board of directors. All of the all of our board members come from big companies
Hmm.
and small companies. We have a board member from Biogen, which is an example of a large med tech kind of company. We
Yep.
have we have three board members who actually have disability owned businesses. Two are in staffing, and one is a product called Safe and Clear
Mm-hmm.
that a woman who is deaf developed right around COVID. And
Yeah,
as you might have guessed, it's a mask
I read about
that
that.
is, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I read that.
And Dr. McIntosh is such a great person to talk to about this. But, what genius. You're sitting around going,
That
what
was
are the
genius.
people who are deaf and hard of hearing going to do?
Yeah, you can't see,
We
you
need
can't lip
something
read.
that,
Yeah,
yeah, they need to be able to lip read. But now it translates out to something else. How about young people and children who are on the autism spectrum
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
or have an intellectual disability
mm-hmm,
or have ADHD,
mm-hmm.
and they're using all of these visual cues, and you're approaching them with this
Yeah,
half-covered face.
gotcha.
And also seniors. Think about that.
Yeah,
Our seniors, how difficult it is for them if I can just imagine if I had some kind of neurological thing going on, and maybe I'm at the beginning stages of Alzheimer's or whatever, and you approach me like this.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's scary,
That is.
right? I can't. It is, so I think about these things, and think about the larger market than just hospitals and clinics. There's a market for schools to use Safe and Clear. There's a market for senior centers to use it. There's a market, I mean, the sky's the limit when you think about people who need, again, your words, that customer service where you're relating as a human being to a human being.
That's right. Yeah, it is a divine work that you're doing and people in the space doing, and I think we need more. I think I said at the conference, you guys are angels healing broken wings, and we need more of that. It's a lot of people with broken wings out here, and people just walk past them and they hobbled and maimed,
Yeah,
but you
yeah,
need some
yeah,
emotional, spiritual doctors like you guys and others to heal these people with broken wings. So I commend you on this work that you're doing. So
yeah,
when you
yeah,
guys are in the community and you're doing the business and you're doing setting businesses up with businesses and you're in the community, business this to community, who would you consider your primary stakeholder? Your donors, your clients, your staff, your volunteer, or just everybody is important to the cogs of
yeah, yeah.
disability and
Well, our primary customer is the business.
hmm
And we have to keep that in mind because there is no one else if we don't do that.
yeah,
Because everything else is about push.
that's
All
right.
right. And we're about pull. And we're about empowering the business to bring people in the door and make it comfortable for them. So that's our primary customer. But then obviously individuals with disabilities. In fact, we have a partnership with a company that posts jobs exclusively, job leads for people with disabilities to come and visit.
hmm
So if I'm Biogen, I can post my jobs on that job posting. It's called Our Ability, Our Jobs.
Is that free?
And it's a business run by a man with disabilities.
hmm
And anywhere, literally in the world, but primarily in the United States, if you want to apply for jobs from big companies that are interested in finding people with disabilities, that is a recruitment opportunity.
I will share that.
So people with disabilities are also one of our partners. We also do a fair amount of partnering, mostly in the space of kind of sharing the load with each other,
hmm
with colleges, universities, and schools.
hmm
So that's not a revenue generator. That's more of a partnering to help each other out to make things
Yeah. Well, it seemed like
uh,
that would create some
work.
opportunity for internships. Do you guys offer internships, students with disabilities and students that don't have disabilities?
We have done that in the past. We don't currently have an intern, but we've had interns, I think, 2 or 3 years running. And again, we're a small organization, so we don't have a large number of things for people to, plug themselves into. But we have been very successful with individuals who came to us and were able to actually land their best jobs as a result of having, kind of work behind the scenes with us.
hmm Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit. Let's pivot and talk about leadership. Let's talk about your leadership. I know how you are. I love you. So, but what kind
You're
of
so
leader
sweet.
would you consider yourself And what's your organizational structure? I know you have the two, but what does
Yeah.
that look like?
Yeah. So organizational structure is the CEO, who's Beth Fatal, and myself, the operations director. We also work with independent contractors. We have a contractor right now who is helping us with our social media.
Hmm.
Um, and then our board of directors, which at present I think is about 13 members.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it can go up to 15, but at present it's about 13. And all of them are either businesses of large international size, medium size, and small businesses. In terms of leadership, I didn't come up through this by getting an MBA or a PhD or, I have a master's in education, and special ed at that. Most of what I've learned about leadership and managing people and projects and things like that has actually come from watching my dad
Yeah,
when I was a child.
great example.
He immigrated from Germany. He had to start over, not even knowing the language here, as did my mother. He was a portrait artist
Hmm.
at the beginning, and making a living supporting 4 children as a foreigner in this country, it just took a lot of guts.
Hmm.
And then he became a muralist, and largely because there was more money in the murals than there was in the portraits.
Hmm.
But what I learned from him is you plan ahead,
Hmm.
you stay very disciplined. You focus on the things that you can accomplish, and you work. You just work. All
That's right.
right. So he had to do everything. He had to work to get customers. He had to do the painting. So he would paint in the summers, and in the winters, but primarily he would deliver the artwork during the summer months. But during the months where people were not purchasing as much, he would paint ahead and he would paint the motifs that people were looking for. So that's another thing I learned from him was always be looking out ahead
Hmm.
and planning your activities, and everybody's marching with you towards. Don't lead from looking in the rear view mirror, because
Absolutely.
that's everything that's just gone on. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the past.
Yeah.
You have to look ahead
I think our
and see
experiences
where you're
shape
going.
not only who we are as people, but it determines
Mhm.
who you will be as a leader if that time came. I think
Mhm.
reading and conceptualizing through textbook doesn't make you a leader. It adds to your tool belt. It gives you something maybe to draw on from an experience or a study or something, but true experience
Amen.
and what you are tied to and have experience will determine how you will respond. I grew up
Yeah.
in the South, in the
Yes.
rural South, and my grandparents were sharecroppers. They farmed, and my parents grew up on farm, and I grew up on the farm, for a little bit, as far as much as I remember. And like you, I remember my grandfather and my father, they may not have had the book education, but they had the work ethic and the aptitude to the perseverance and the confidence that you can be and do whatever you need to do. They knew beyond this farm that Tony could be this. And so I learned that hard work like you did from your father. I learned that leadership, which means being responsible, taking care of your family. All these intrinsic things that you learn that you may not necessarily read about. That helps shape who you are as a leader too. And you can tell
Right.
through your passion and how you are with disability in North Carolina, you can see that what you just mentioned about your father, you can see those pieces. I can see that in you through this conversation.
That's very sweet.
So how do
Thank you so
you
much.
let's pivot back to your board of directors. How do you find
Yes.
them?
The board cultivation is primarily Beth's domain. However, what typically happens is someone gets interested in what we're doing, or they come to one of our events, like the
Mhm,
ADA event,
mhm,
and they hear what's going on. They see the programming that's being delivered, or they attend a training thing that we've done. And then the inquiry begins. How could we get more involved with your organization? Could we explore membership? And then typically the way the conversation evolves is, what are your pain points? Us
mhm,
asking the business, where do you want to grow? Where do you want to go with your issues around disability inclusion and recruitment of the talent and preparing of the welcome mat.
Mhm.
And that's where it ends up being, somebody says, I'm really interested in what you're doing. I'd
Mhm.
like to be a part of it and be helpful. And so then the invitation is we'd like to consider you to serve on the board.
But one thing I noticed, Pat, with your board, they're very engaging. They're not just resume stuffers. Your board
Exactly.
members actually work.
Exactly.
My friend married,
They do.
they work. They're actively involved, and that is a positive.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And thank you for recognizing that because they don't need to be applauded for that.
Hmm. So we talked a little bit about your consulting and other things, but what would you say your main funding sources would be? Is it grants, the donations, events, service fees, or it's just
Yeah,
all
membership is key with us.
membership is key?
So whether or not a company wants to serve on the board, what we would like is to cultivate the kind of relationship where they join our organization and benefit from us over a multi-year kind of experience.
Hmm.
So right now we're planning our biggest event of the year as far as events go. It's our fall conference. And that will be happening at Train Technologies. I think we are going on maybe our sixth, it could be even our seventh year,
Hmm.
with Train offering up their conference space.
How about
So
that?
they just give us the space and they allow their media people to help us. And we pull off our biggest event of the year because of their involvement. But they have been a long-term platinum member, and the payoff for them, besides us all aligning with this great mission together, is we push out a lot of social media around what they're doing. We publicize what they're doing in other venues as well.
Hmm.
And so it's a case where there's that opportunity to do a brand lift
Yeah, yeah, I was going to say.
along with getting your hands in it. So their business resource group, their BRG,
Hmm.
comes and volunteers and helps us with the distribution of registration and, helping guests be comfortable and all that good stuff. I'm really excited to tell you that this fall we have Nate Sally from the Panthers coming to speak.
Hmm.
Now, that means nothing to me. This is where I reveal to your entire audience that
Hmm.
I'm a football washout.
Yeah, yeah.
I know nothing about it.
Hmm.
But this is real exciting to Beth because she's all over football, watched the whole season. I'm hearing about all these games that I know nothing about, right?
Hmm.
So she was able to snag Nate Sally, who used to be on the Panthers, I think a handful of years ago. And he has some work he's doing in the public speaking stuff, but also he can bring to the table some stories around some of the issues he's had to deal with disability that were related to injuries that occur on the
Hmm.
field and such like that. We also have a guy by the name of Doug McCalla,
Hmm.
and Doug used to work for Johnson and Johnson. In fact, he was in their C-suite. He was a high exec in
Okay.
New Jersey.
Yeah, yeah.
And he has a congenital degenerative spinal muscular disease, all right? So currently, as a probably 30, 40-year-old man, he's using a power wheelchair. But he has written this really wonderful book, and he will be coming to promote his book. Judy Woodruff of PBS
Hmm.
wrote the preface for his book. And so we're very excited about him. And then I'll sneak this one out.
Let's go.
We're going to be giving an award to Larry Sprinkle. Do you know who Larry Sprinkle is?
I do not know Larry Sprinkle.
Okay. Well, if you were here in Charlotte, anybody says Larry Sprinkle, everybody knows Larry.
Hmm.
He's a weatherman. He used to do the weather for I want to say mid 70s on. This guy
Hmm.
has been on the station forever, WCNC. He only recently retired to take a part-time thing with WCNC, telling stories, about interesting people.
Hmm.
But here's a for real guy who did the weather for years, whose name was Sprinkle. I'm not
It's,
making this up.
it's sprinkling
Is his
outside.
name.
So where is this conference this year? And when?
Thank you. It will be October 9th. It will be at Train Technologies in Davidson, 800 Beatty Street, the beautiful campus of Train. We are expecting a sellout crowd. If you're thinking about registering, or anybody that's listening to this is thinking about registering, I would advise doing it quickly because we sold out last year and we're expecting even higher demand this year.
I want to go. You got to save me a ticket. I'm coming looking for you.
You know what? You know what I want from you, Tony? I want you
What?
to come and do our virtual wellness at work thing in May.
Oh, in May? Where's that going to
In
be?
May, well, that's a virtual thing.
Oh,
So
yeah. Oh, yeah.
so
Well, duh.
no worries, no worries. In May, we do what we call Wellness at Work. It is an event that features Mental Health Awareness Month,
Mm-hmm.
the month of May,
Mm-hmm.
and we call in different speakers. I was so impressed with the things you had to say about your nonprofit and the work with people who are experiencing cancer, thriving
Thriving.
despite it. And I think that's a really important message when we think about, our individual wellness and how that relates to how we show up at work
Yes.
and how that relates to how we show up at life.
That's right.
And it's bigger than just the small topic of mental health. It's much more, to me, that experience of being human.
Mm-hmm.
So, as humans, we're going to have these things that happen to us and through us.
You
And
know,
some of us will experience disease, but that doesn't mean we're done for.
I love that. I love that. We are energetic beings, right? We are
Yeah.
composed of electrons and all of these things. So when people say, I can feel that coming from a person or I can sense that energy, that is true because you're
Yes, it is.
conducting this electricity and you're feeding off the energy coming from
Yes.
someone else. And so when you have these modalities, whether it's cancer or whatever it is, you have to choose really quickly. You're going to insulate yourself from the bad energy or you're going to
Amen.
envelop yourself with the good energy. That's the
There
start.
you go.
And if you can make that determination really quickly, you will be on your way to, I believe, to healing. One of the first things I
Yeah.
did was
Yeah.
shut out the background noise, cut out people that were not positive, and I insulated myself with only those that were giving me that energy that my body could receive that was positive. That's the start.
Amen.
And so I believe in
Amen.
May, that's what
Absolutely.
you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. As well as meeting people where they're at.
Yeah.
Not everybody is in that energy that you are in.
Mm-hmm.
And so wherever they are, the few steps they're able to make,
Yeah.
we can still support,
We're trying to
right?
get to the same place. We may use a different vehicle to get there, but we're trying. I engaged with a guy on a chat group, and we were talking about cancer. Different people were talking about cancer, and I think he had a moment, and some of the things that other people were saying, he said he didn't feel that way. It wasn't as black and white for him. He believed in
Mm-hmm.
data and he believed in science. And I interjected. I said, well, listen, you can believe in the data. This person can believe in the science. This person can believe in Jesus. Whatever vehicle you're using, we're trying to get to the same place, and that's being healed. So there's no offense to your approach or their approach. Everybody's here is
Amen.
excited about what's working for them. And if the
Right.
data is working for you, we celebrate that. If having
That's
faith
right.
works for this person, we celebrate that. So this is not a comparison contrast on those faith people believe this, the science people believe. No, we're all trying to get to the same place. And if that's what it takes,
Yeah.
that's where I'm going to meet you at. And that's how we'll
Yeah.
get there.
It'd be lovely if we could get over this black and white thinking
Yeah.
and start thinking about where our commonalities are.
Yes. Yes.
And I love your bringing up the fact that, we are all electrons moving around in space in some kind of weird way.
Mm-hmm.
There's more spaces between the cells in our bodies than there is cells in our bodies.
Yes. Well said.
That'll bend your mind for a little bit.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So, what are we doing with that space?
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about logic and your program impact. How many
Yes.
programs would you say you guys do per year?
Programming wise, this year we've done 3 large programs. In previous years, we didn't do as much programming because we were doing more in-depth grant work. Impact wise, I would say that we've probably trained maybe 2,500 people now for this year alone. And they show up at a conference or they come. We have monthly sessions that anybody can attend. There's no charge to attend, called Business to Business, B2B. And we usually have a speaker, and we have, between maybe 20 or 25 people to maybe as many as 40 or 50 people who come. And they might hear about somebody's presenting on NC Able accounts, which, help folks to save money for their son or daughter with disabilities. Or they might hear about an attorney talking about ADA accommodations, or they might hear from somebody like Dr. McIntosh saying, I'd like to talk to you about free and safe and clear and what we're doing to get this product out there because it's helpful to people who need that human contact. So that metrics wise, I would say we're probably about 2,500 folks that we've impacted this year.
That's amazing. It only takes one, right?
Yeah.
2,500. The
Oh
20,
yeah.
yeah. The 24.99 is extra, but the one person that you can change and impact makes it all worthwhile. So as a leader in your organization, I'm sure you have short-term goals and long-term goals each year.
Hmm.
Can you share with what would be Pat's short-term goals for the year? And I know you mentioned
Oh
going
yeah.
international. That seems like a long-term goal, but is there
No, no,
other?
no, no. But I will not be on the ship when we go international.
Mhm.
First of all, we already have our mothership doing that.
Yeah.
I'm very devoted to what we're doing here in North Carolina. My short-term goal is to double our membership.
Okay.
And, membership of companies, both small, medium, and large, all three, and to double our engagement so that they are like our current board members, much, much more engaged in our activities and our consulting and our events. Further down the pike, we would love to do some things with helping small businesses that are owned by people with disabilities. That is the group that gets ignored because often they're very small and they struggle to get up and running. But we feel like there's an intersection between our businesses, say Wells Fargo, who's one of our members, one of our platinum members, who can bring to the table all of this knowledge about investing and business relations and things like that, and the small nonprofit or the small for-profit business owned by a person with disabilities that's just getting its feet wet in the market.
Mhm.
So long range, I'd like to see us do something very robust to help that group.
Okay. Okay. Is there an organization that you can find or see people with disabilities that own businesses? Is
Yeah.
there?
So Disability in the big mothership,
Mhm.
there are about 30 or 40 names on a list that they have of
Mhm.
what they call disability owned business enterprises, DOBE, DOBEs.
Mhm.
Um, we acronym things to death in this field.
Mhm.
Um,
Most people do. Yeah.
but as you start, we have about 2,000 people on our email e-blast list. As you start reaching out, these folks start coming out of the woodwork. And then if you include veterans with disabilities, a lot of the vets have chosen self-employment as a way to re-enter the workforce,
Mhm.
particularly if they've got a chronic disability that they have to manage. And so, being able to set their own schedule and run their own shift is a more comfortable space to be in. What's
Mhm.
not happening, and this is what I want Disability in North Carolina to be positioned to do, is to create a hub where anybody who's interested in doing business with businesses owned by people with disabilities,
Mhm.
owned and operated, not just staffed, but
Yes.
owned and operated,
Mhm.
where they can link up with those folks, learn about them, and engage with them and do business with them.
How do you measure success, Pat? Like, is there a dichotomy between you and the businesses to say, hey, we want to see this, and you say we can provide this? Are there measurables? How does that work? Like,
Oh, I mean, the typical stuff that you'd collect data on, the number of people
mhm,
who participated,
mhm,
their ratings or surveys of what they experienced, things that changed as a result
mhm,
of the activity. But if you ask me personally, besides all of the logical stuff,
mhm,
it's when the excitement is palpable. When that person has walked out of the room and they're electrons are going,
Yeah.
like this. And
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
trying to, and they're trying to hang on to that feeling or whatever. And I love it when somebody recognizes the talent. That takes it back to the whole teacher thing is when someone comes to me and they say, I came to your thing and then we hired a person and they had a vision impairment. And then all of a sudden I discovered that this person knew how to do such and such or so and so. And they've been a real, asset to
Yeah.
our meetings, to our work together. And I learned to overcome my attitude about people who are different.
Well, you know what? I realized that nonprofits play such a vital role in society that most people don't realize how often they come in contact with nonprofits, whether it's a
Mm.
hospital setting, whether it's
Oh
education,
yeah,
whether it's music. They come in contact with nonprofits every day, but don't even realize it. So I think bringing
you're
that
absolutely right.
awareness to them will bring that
Yeah,
aha moment like, hey, this has always existed. And some of them even get services from the nonprofit. They don't even realize it through some of these
yeah,
co-ops and cohorts and all these things, nonprofits.
yeah,
So how do you
yeah.
help with
You're
that
right.
message? I know you said you had a team helping with that, but how do you put your message out there?
Again, we use our e-blasts, our social media,
Hmm.
and our website, and avenues like this. Somebody
Hmm.
asks us to come speak, we're coming to speak.
Hmm.
Um, and also serving on other groups. Tonight I'll be attending an event that the North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities is holding for the public.
Okay.
And so I'm showing up just to talk about, how we can interface with one another. So unfortunately, there's not one place you can go to. It's like, I'll know everything if I go to that one spot.
Yeah, yeah.
You kind of have to work the room, so to speak, work,
Hmm.
work the world.
Yeah.
I just thought of another thing that might be interesting to you and your listeners. Last year we did a long-term training activity for Novant.
Hmm.
And what they wanted was a series of 4 training webinars that they could engage with their clinicians, their doctors, and their nurses. And so we created this training around all things disability related, including, prevalence of disability, different kinds of disabilities, how to work with them, blah, 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 the whole thing, and pushed it out there.
Hmm.
And the best thing about it wasn't the numbers of people who participated. It was when we got the feedback that the nurses loved it.
How about that?
Yeah, because, a nurse is a harder person to please even than a teacher, right?
It is, yes.
You got to
I have
nail it with
lots
them
of
because
them.
uh-huh. They are a tough nut, right? And if something is not, authentic, or if it is just window dressing, but it was real cool to get the feedback that the training we delivered really pleased the nurses, because I'm like, the nurses are right there. They take the pulse of the patient literally.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
They know how patients need to be treated, right?
You don't want it to be a parachute event where you pop in and then you pop out. People can smell and recognize that. They want someone that's gonna
Absolutely.
be there for the enduring side of it. I can pick up the
Right,
phone and
right.
talk to Pat and she will be there. Not that I met
Yeah,
Pat and I never hear from her again. People can tell,
yeah.
you know.
You're absolutely right. The other thing that was cool about this was the humility of Novant.
Mhm.
They had been working on increasing their disability messaging and improving on that internally for quite a while. And then to reach to us to ask, could we do something for this core group? A lot of people say to me, well, wouldn't all the doctors and nurses know this? Well, here's the deal. Whatever they do know, which we respect and applaud, they're willing to come for additional training and to be willing to learn more,
That's right.
right? And as it turned out, apparently we brought a lot of novel things to the table that made them think differently and think more holistically about the patients and the families that they support. Because remember that a lot of folks are coming in with a child with a disability. And if that waiting room is a horror story for that child with a disability,
Mhm.
that's going to create a real tense situation for that parent, and ultimately a tense situation for those clinicians and physicians that are trying to treat that child.
Mm-hmm.
So now the questions are, how can we help this? Could we create a quiet place for your son or daughter so they're not triggered by going to the hospital? Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
And you know this because
Yes.
hospitals are something that you've had to become more than a
It's
little
like a
acquainted
home.
with.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right. And you don't want your home to be this scary, noisy, they're running after me with needles places.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so recently I went for my physical and my doctor comes in, but before him, who comes in?
Nurse.
True. But even before that,
I don't know who
it
came
was
in.
his dog.
What?
His little sheepdog comes walking into the room. And now I'm like, oh my God, you've brought a dog. This is great.
It's changed the whole atmosphere, right?
And this dog is, he's like a little service dog, and he sits there and jumps up on the seat and he puts his little paw on your hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, eh, I said to my doctor, this is genius. You bring him every day. He says,
That's right.
you would not believe how much easier it is to give shots to kids now.
That's right. That's right. You know what? Which brings me to this question. And that's a good sign of leadership that he could see that. In your experience, all of your experience, what do you see as the most important leadership skill in managing a nonprofit? Someone like me that just, I've been involved with
Yeah,
nonprofits and served on them, but
yeah, yeah,
starting my own, which I have two now, what
yeah,
advice would you
yeah,
give?
yeah. So it's hard to put it into one, but I'm going to put it into one that's kind of split down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
On the one side, there's all this energy and positivity and excitement that you've got to generate.
Yep.
But the other side of you has to be a clear business person.
That's right.
And you've got to be, oh God, these books don't look good. Or I need to do more about organizing this or that, in my training or whatever, because I need to up my game, right? So it forces you to be, if you're going to be successful at this, you can't just be, singing kumbaya. This is the hippie learned a few things.
That's right.
You have to run a business at the same time.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I love that. Well, listen, Pat, I thank you for your time. This has been amazing. I can talk to you all day. I know you have other things to do, but thank you for sharing these things about your experience in the nonprofit sector. And thank you for sharing disability in North Carolina with us. And I'm sure you and I.
We love it. We love it, Tony. And would it be okay for us to have a copy to put on our website?
Sure.
Because
Where
we
can
would
we
like to
find
push
you?
some of the great work you're doing.
Where can we find
Excuse
you
me?
at? What's your handles? Where can
Yes.
we find you?
Yes. It's Disability In.
Mm-hmm. And
And from there, you'll find everything else. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn. What are some of the others? X.
what about your personal handles? Where can they find you?
My personal handle, business wide, is Pat at DI.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No
Yeah. LinkedIn is my main thing.
communication. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Tony.
You have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.